Good morning, Australia. Welcome to the Brekkie NFL show for week 5. I know it's Wednesday as opposed to Tuesday. Such is the life, the fast forward sprint of an NFL season. We are approaching the third of the way through. Here stateside, we have NHL puck drop today, and not to get too cross sport, but if the NFL were 3 periods as an NHL game, we'd be approaching the first intermission. So, Laurie, this is the people's show, but today we're making it a family show. Again, we are a little bit removed from the most recent NFL results. So that, coupled with the fact that we have a lot to discuss, as again, we are a family program today.
We certainly are. We talk about this week in, week out, but this has got family in italics, if you'd like. Maybe italics, depending where you're from. And
italics.
You're gonna hear the same thing talked about all over the NFL world. It's like, how many good teams are there? Are there any good teams in the NFL? Are there any great teams? No one's really feeling confident enough to say that, except maybe Philly fans. What I think that really speaks to is, who can we trust? The NFL has trust issues right now. And I'm not just talking about trusting in the roughing the passer ruling. Can you trust a lot of these teams to perform consistently week in, week out? And when you think about family, you think about trust, you go to mob movies. You go to this phenomenal genre of wise guy movies, mafia movies, if you will. And that's how we want to phrase it. We want to build today. And this is an idea that started in your phenomenal head over there in Bristol, Connecticut. And we thought it might be a segment. And then 45 minutes later, we just basically figured out this was going to be the theme of the show as we take a big picture look. It was going to be our Phil's Mafia or
hashtag Phil's Mafia
or, and here we go, here it comes, good NFLers themed show. We want to construct who is in our family, who fits these roles, and I'll allow you to list them top to bottom as you curated this roster that we were going to fill out. But which teams fill these roles, and maybe a couple of personas here and there fit the roles that you normally see play out in a family.
Well, Laz, again, I'm rocking the Russell Wilson T-shirt, and I don't know if he's going to stay in the family all that long. So I do need to get something a little more appropriate for the setting, something you may see in an Italian restaurante. And as you fill out a roster for your family, top to bottom, you got the Don, you got the Godfather at the top of the heap, untouchable. Then you got the made man, somebody who has been pegged to be in that next tier, on his way, may not have the tenure of a Godfather.
No. Maybe a consigliere might fit that role.
Correct. Then you have the muscle, the guy that gets things done, but never really going to climb the ladder. Though if you meet him in January in a dark alley or on a patch of grass in Green Bay, Wisconsin, it may not go well for you. We'll see. Then you got the rat, somebody who looks like he's in the family, ticks all the boxes, but when push comes to shove down an elevator shaft, you can't trust him. And then we got a couple other characters that Laz didn't really fit the mold, but man, they fit some classic characters. We'll get to those later. But as we start with the Godfather, the criteria for this, on the day of my daughter's wedding, the criteria for this, a team that had reached a Super Bowl reached a Super Bowl or won a conference championship. It had reached a Super Bowl in the last, 3 years? Because if you haven't, then you're not a Don, you're not the king. You can be on the way. So we start with a team that won themselves a ring, brass knuckles, but just one of them, 2 years ago. The Kansas City Chiefs, who yet again, I was getting worried on Monday Night Football. They're down 17, and we know they're more than comfortable with a double-digit deficit. But Laz, as is wont to happen again and again, Patrick Mahomes, the second, junior as we call him, leads the team to victory and proves yet again they are deserving Dons. They can win by hook, by crook, however you got to do it. They can be trusted.
When you think of a Don, when you think of the mastermind of the board there, the mastermind of the family, you think about somebody that's always a couple moves ahead, always has a move left to play, even when they seem backed into a corner. And last night, yesterday, in that game, which was a phenomenal Monday Night Football special, look, it was tense and it was fiery early. The back end of that first half, the Arrowhead crowd is up and about in a bad way. They're feeling nasty. They're feeling angry. The roughing the passer call that went the way of Derek Carr, that robbed, in my mind, and I think anybody who's looked at the details of the rulebook and how it played out, that robbed Chris Jones not just of a sack but of a fumble. And the man did everything possible. He stole the ball. He was the ball carrier by the time he hit the ground, and he braced with the hand that wasn't holding the football. So they're fired up about that. Then they get, it's the rarely seen, I think you'd call it an FU field goal. Not often you see, the field goal is usually, the offense might have stalled out on a drive somewhere here.
FUFG.
Yeah, the FUFG. You've got a backup kicker in there because Harrison Bucker's been injured. Just absolutely sends it from 59 yards.
Longest kick in Arrowhead history, by the way.
And if you started him in your fantasy team, congratulations. And that really seemed to, like, you saw the energy on the sideline. You felt the crowd roared for that field goal. They were like, look, you've tried to take something away from us. We're going into the half with a full head of steam. And look, if you're not familiar with the Kansas City family motto, if you're not familiar with the Chiefs and Andy Reid's kind of family aura, it surrounds the third quarter. Look what happens, especially when they're up against the wall, when they come out of the gates for the third quarter. What do we see? 2 touchdowns, 14 points for the quarter for the Kansas City Chiefs. Wrestled control of that game away and just showed that they had another level, that they did have another move to make, and that they are at that tier above, despite being punched in the mouth. And you know what? Families are going to get punched in the mouth. They're going to get shots they didn't see coming sometimes. They're going to be hit. But they showed this time, Kansas City Chiefs, why their caliber is at that next level. And stat you shared with me this morning, I'll let you tear it up, shows when they fall down by 10 points, just how different a mode and different a model they are compared to the rest of the league.
Well, Lawrence, since you brought it up, since 2018, when down 10 points or more, as the Chiefs in this game were down more than 10 points, they were down 10 at the half, despite the FUFG, as you so aptly put it. When down 10 or more in the last 4 years, the Chiefs are 12-9. 12-9. The rest of the NFL, 156 and 873. Those are really big numbers, hard to digest. So we'll do percentages. When down 10 or more points in the last 4 seasons, the Chiefs have won 57.1% of the time. The rest of the NFL has won 15.2% of the time. The Chiefs win at almost 4 times the rate of the rest of the league when down 10. And Laz, if there is somebody we know we can trust with Nona's marinara recipe, it is Andy Reid.
I think we see the people out there. We said it's a family show, and our family, Brad Bolt, who's a friend of the show, loyal listener, great comments. He's feeling what we're throwing down here. Michael Corleone Award, KC Chiefs for sure. You could ask whether it was, Vito Corleone early on in the franchise series, but the Chiefs have earned that. They have shown that they are. We'll touch on some of the made teams, some of the made men, some of the conciliary tier teams across the NFL, but that is just what we get treated to from the Chiefs. They have the energy, the presence, the charisma of that Don, of the top of the food chain. But as we move down, and we've got another one here, Adam Schultz coming in with the only teams he trusts, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Cowboys defense. I think that's a pretty seamless transition to where we want to go next.
Adam, welcome to the family. We'll take you out to a dinner. We know all the right spots. We know the right people. Just say our names. We'll get you in. The made men, the guys who haven't yet reached that Kansas City tier of having the ring, but would and should surprise nobody if they do it this year. You got to start with the circling the wagons, the hashtag that inspired this segment, the Bills Mafia for Phil's Mafia. Laz, a wise guy's always right. Even when he's wrong, he's right. And you look at the Bills a couple weeks ago in Baltimore, down 17. Josh Allen doesn't realize his team's wearing the white shirts. No problem. We circle the wagons. We come back. We come away with the W. That's what the Bills do. They were 13 seconds away, I believe, from making a Super Bowl run a year ago. Overtime rules have changed. Sometimes if the law's not on your side, the law just kind of ends up on your side. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying?
I do, and I think the Bills fall into this nice tier of made man, but are they at that next tier? Because one, we haven't seen them, stamp their claim and get to the Super Bowl and take this very talented roster to that next level. Not that it may not be in their future, but also because I think of Tom Hagen from Godfather here, who was known as a peacetime conciliary. That was one of the criticisms of him early in the narrative there of The Godfather, that he was a peacetime conciliary. And then we think about the Buffalo Bills. Are they a team built to when the going gets tough not just going gets tough in the postseason, but when the going gets cold, when the weather drops, when it becomes hard-nosed cold weather football, and we're talking about needing to run the rock, needing to be a dual offense, is this a team that can do that in that stage? Now, the thriller against the Chiefs, the 13 seconds of mayhem at the end that saw them fall short in last year's playoffs, has shown what they can, the ceiling of that team at this time of year. But it is still a question, and the way they're constructed as well, the way they seemingly can only run the ball with consistency and production when they're up by 30 points. And, great to see James Cook out there and getting his, early rookie shine on after a pretty quiet opening month to his NFL career. But this is a team that leads on Josh Allen and that prodigious right arm and the ridiculous chemistry he has with his receivers. Go have a look at his highlights with Gabe Davis. But is this a team, we talk about the ceiling, is this a team that can harden up to that degree when it gets cold against the best teams, against some of the best defenses? Can they prove, in other words, that they're not just a peacetime conciliary, that they're a wartime conciliary?
And in that matchup you're talking about, we'll see it this weekend on ESPN at 7:30 a.m., perhaps the premier game of the regular season, Chiefs-Bills. Laz, it wasn't the absence of a running game that cost them that game a year ago. It was the inability to keep Kansas City from going 40-odd yards in 13 seconds. They draft Kyer Elam, who's looked capable. They've lost Micah Hyde. Jordan Poyer, I believe he's got a more minor ailment. Their pass rush has improved certainly by getting Von Miller. Their secondary has taken a step up. It needs to get fit. Maybe they can make a trade to add some depth to the secondary. We'll be talking about that later in the show. But I believe that if the Bills get the right matchup, we'll talk about muscle coming up, a team that you wouldn't want to meet in the dark alley. But if they're going head-to-head with the Dons, they're one of the few teams that are crafted to beat them. And as it stands today, they are favorites against the Chiefs. And I think that game's in Kansas City. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're playing at Arrowhead this weekend. Would be the first time Patrick Mahomes is a home underdog as a starter. Now, as an underdog, period, all been on the road, he's 7-0-1 against the number. So you get his back against the wall. I mean, Laz, when you beat him with a fist, he comes back with a bat. That whole thing. We'll get to that. But I think this is a team that if they get that matchup, whether it's in Kansas City or Buffalo, there's reason to believe that they have made the necessary adjustments to get over the Kansas City hump. Other teams may have the mechanisms to beat them in a cold weather environment. Your concern is valid, but that's why they're made. They're not the Godfathers yet. Now, Laz, you got another point on the Chiefs or on the Bills or the Chiefs, or can we get to the one that I threw out, the made man that I threw out, but you had doubt for them?
I did have doubts for this one, and it's one that we went back and forth on, and I'm not there yet, and maybe that's because I don't want to get my heart broken, but you threw out the Cowboys. You threw out the Cowboys. It's a friend of a friend. You vouched. You suggested the Cowboys, and we saw in just a second ago as our look, the comments are lighting up. They're clearly we've got some Goodfellas and Sopranos and Godfather fans out there, not to mention more. If you want to see Phil's best mafia movies, by the way, they're running in the ticker down below there. He's ranked them for you. He's given you some viewing material on a nice cold evening before spring really picks up down in these parts. But Adam suggested the Cowboys defense, and maybe that is one that I'm more willing to say, falls into this made man territory. They are, and this is not words that we're used to using for the Cowboys, that defense is hard-nosed. That defense is tough-minded.
It's like busted to the side, like it took a shot.
And has the ability to have a really short memory and forget some. Look, they gave up a chunk play to Tutu Atwell. They gave up, questionable coverage set up there for Cooper Kupp on a 75-yard touchdown with Trayvon Diggs playing man coverage in two-way go in the slot, playing trail with no safety help around is a little suspect. But they gave up these chunk plays, and they were able to stiffen up the front, rally, truly shut down that Rams offense and allow Cooper Rush to respond, the offense to respond, Tony Pollard to respond. I'm not there yet that they're a made man, despite the fact that they're playing old school football, which would generally help you being made in the family. They are. This is not a high wire act, high fireworks, high octane offense that we've seen from Cowboys teams in the past. They are a nasty, tough team up against another nasty, tough team this week, and we'll touch on that game coming up. But I'm not there yet. But you make the case why they belong, why they should be made, and why this isn't a little trickeration going on that we may have seen play out in the latter stages of Goodfellas with someone else who thought he might be getting made.
We'll touch on that coming up soon. Laz, I'm going to make 4 weeks ago, if I came to you and I said, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Dak Prescott's down, and a month and change from now, the Cowboys will be one game out of first place and have perhaps the best defense in the League of National Football that we watch and enjoy. They got to win on Monday Night Football. It was ugly at times, but you know what? That is aging like a fine Sangiovese. The Giants keep getting victories, and the Cowboys went into the Meadowlands in a hostile environment. I know. I was there. And now they're counting the clock, watching the clock spin round till they get Cooper Rush back into his role as a reserve, where he's been terrific. He's turned the ball over one time. He's got the number 6 QBR in the entire National Football League since becoming starter. Now, I said on the phone to you last night, I said, Lawrence, they're going to get a quarterback back that is a half step up, a half grade up from Cooper Rush. And you were offended. You were shocked, appalled.
I was.
You said, where do you have the unmitigated gall, the audacity to say only a half grade up? And
does Dak amuse you? Is that what he's here to? Is Dak here to amuse you, Phil?
I'm not making jokes, Laws. I'm not funny. I'm not a clown. I'm not here to amuse you.
Funny how?
Funny.
Half a tier up how?
Yeah, you're going to make me dance. I don't want to dance for you, Laws. So where he's going to play is a half step up, because if he's a full step up from what Cooper Rush is doing right now, he's Patrick Mahomes, he's Josh Allen. I don't think he's that. No disrespect. But at a half step up, you're talking about a team that could win this division, and a defense that, whether they're home or on the road in January, I look around the NFC, who can they not beat? So that's why I'm saying they're made. They're not Godfathers yet. They haven't gotten there yet. But who is the Godfather of the NFC? We named one Godfather. That was in the American Football Conference. The National Football Conference, I don't see one. The star on the helmet, that's where I'm putting my money.
We're getting a lot of fan questions coming in that are touching on some of the areas, and I promise you we will get to a bunch of them. We've got Eno asking about his Giants. We'll get to that. The Giants are going to come up soon. We've got Brad sent in a great question about how great do we think the Eagles are? Are they the class of the NFC? If they're in the AFC, where do they fall? We'll touch on that in a little bit, but please keep firing them in, because we clearly have found a common thread here between NFL fans, particularly in this part of the world, and fans of 80s, 90s mafia.
The Venn diagram is a circle.
It's a circle, and so is life. Now, where I will concede that, we make a strong point about the Cowboys. What I expect to age well this season, and there was a lot of talk about, turnovers aren't a sticky stat. If you lead the league in turnovers one year, you're just as likely to finish in the bottom 15 as you are to repeat. Far more likely, actually. The Cowboys are a more complete defense this year. They're more solid. They're not turning the ball over at the rate they were, but they're showing the ability to clamp down on the run when they do give up some games early in the game. I think they are a more complete team. Someone like Trayvon Diggs, no, he doesn't have 5 interceptions through 5 weeks, but he still is picking the ball off. He still does have ball production, but he's a more complete player, and we are seeing a more solid version of him, more dependable down end.
He picked the ball off on Jimmy Hoffa's grave at the Meadowlands. I know, I was there.
And if you guys are wondering how Phil can lean far more into certain vibes, accents, and obviously fashion, Phil obviously boasts the family lineage that you're looking for in a made man.
Yes. By the way, before anyone sends an email, I am. If not for the pandemic, I would be holding an Italian passport. Okay.
All right, let's take it to you down to the muscle. The muscle was fun to talk about. When we think muscle, Phil, what great characters are coming to your mind across the myriad of wise guy pop culture? Who are we thinking of here?
Well, Luz, I mean, every Golly. I mean, just I'm spacing on the name, Laws. He's in like every movie in the same role.
He's in every single movie in the same role. I watched him last night as I did my research, and I think the name you're looking for there is Paulie from The Sopranos. Paulie is that quintessential, and honestly, he's in about, I don't even know. I can't certainly count it on more than one hand. The amount of times you've seen him in these types of roles.
I think he's in four of the movies on my scroller.
Exactly. I did look up that apparently this could be bad Wikipedia. Apparently there are 27 actors that crossed the paths between Goodfellas and The Sopranos. 27 actors that somehow got credit in both of those. I don't really know how we get there, but you think of Tony Sirico. Tony Sachs. That's who you think of when we get to this point of the show. So when you think of muscle in the league right now, we do question their ceiling. We don't think this is a team that's going to reach that upper tiers, but they certainly have that physicality and that potential to play the berserker knockout role. So who's the first team that comes up in your mind when we get to the muscle?
Well, Laz, I mean, you just got to talk to. They just had a business trip across the pond. Maybe made a little jaunt south to see some family members. BYOB, bring your own brass knuckles to Britain. The New York Football Giants. Everybody wants to characterize them as the worst 4-1 team in the league. If there is such a thing, I would respectfully disagree. We got more on that coming up. But the way this team is built, they run the ball. Daniel Jones can move with his legs. I don't know who he's throwing to. Don't necessarily know those guys, trust those guys. He trusts those guys.
Friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. I don't know you.
So I'm not really letting them in the innermost of circles. I do think they're the third best team and perhaps the best division in this entire league. Just saying. So I think what makes them the muscle, they're a team you don't want to meet outside when it gets cold. They're going to keep it tight. They're going to keep it close. They're not going to give you breathing room, no matter where you fall on this list. And they may just come into your own house and upset you, disrespecting your own house. But they get it done. Dirty if they need to. Brian Daboll, again, another guy. Nona, marinara recipe. I think he appreciates it. They're the muscle.
They have some guys coming along. Talk about muscle on the offensive line. Andrew Thomas has rise as one of the premier left tackles in the NFL. Look at leg muscle.
Who has leg muscle comparable with the quad god?
And that's it. This is it.
Quadzilla.
You see a common theme play out in this genre of film, and that is, knowing your role, knowing you don't get above your station. Don't forget who you are. The Giants know exactly who they are. They identified the two best weapons they have on offense. Saquon's legs and Daniel Jones's legs. And they're figuring out ways to efficiently and effectively and confusingly for the defense to utilize those in all sorts of different parts of the field, in different alignments, in different play calls. The defense is not the most talented one, but you want to talk about knowing your identity and knowing who you are. Wink Martindale sending heat, lighting up, blitzing Aaron Rodgers on the play in the red zone on the last gasp chance for the Packers to pull even there as they march down towards a potentially huge scoring opportunity. Wink Martindale sticking to exactly who he is inside and sending heat. That is a team that knows who they are. And you mentioned Dark Alley. You saw Brian Daboll and how fired up he was leaving the field there over at Tottenham. That's not a guy. That's not an energy I want to come across at any point in my night out. There was a lot of heat the big man was bringing, but credit to him. He has instilled a family mantra and culture.
A family mantra.
Family.
A family.
Through every tier of that operation. And that's how, you asked, how are my Giants 4-1? That's how. All right, next.
And Laz, look at the schedule. Yes. Look at the schedule. They host the Ravens this weekend. 5-point underdogs. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave Baltimore problems. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? But then after that, Seattle, Jacksonville, Houston, Detroit. We could be talking 2/3 of the way through the season. This team could be 7-3. They could be 8-2.
And that's going to be a common thing when we talk about the Giants, when we talk about the Cowboys, and certainly when we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. That is not a division that boasts an overly tough schedule. However, more tough perhaps the interdivision or intra-division meetings may be compared to where we saw at the start of the season. All right, next muscle team. No surprises here, and absolutely nothing to do with the fact that their quarterback has a vowel at the end of his name. But the San Francisco 49ers are muscle. The nasty front, let's hope Nick Bosa is not out too long and the groin injury comes around. But that is a physical, nasty team. They want to beat you up on defense up front. The back end is playing far better. Those linebackers are absolutely outstanding. Fred Warner, class above. This is a team that sets their tone from their physicality. We know, again, we talked about ceiling. That's always been the conversation about Jimmy Garoppolo, particularly in the last 3-4 years, particularly since the Super Bowl, so close, the miss to Emmanuel Sanders that you and me saw in person, lucky enough to do that. This is a team, you don't know exactly how far they're going to go, but they'll take that physicality on defense. Little health, maybe Eli Mitchell coming back later in the year to go with Jeff Wilson and how much they want to just ram the run game down your throat. They've got guys like Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. They're going to play physical with or without the ball. Don't sleep on Brandon Ayuk as well, who I think can still be utilized more. But this is a team that fits that bill. Bit of West Coast muscle coming in, and providing a little extra oomph. Maybe you got to fly him in from out of town.
Laz, a Cadillac pulls up, and out pop 3 guys named Jimmy G, Nicky Bones, and Debo. How do you think you're going to fare against that trio, huh? Again, I said earlier, you beat Nicky with fists, he comes back with a bat. And you look at that division. Are we scared of the Rams? Are we scared of the Cardinals? Are we scared of the Seahawks? We're not. We should not be. Maybe the team with the best backup quarterback situation in the National Football League had that fall to them. They did not miss a beat. They're not going to overwhelm you. They'll beat your Carolinas. Keep them under the team total of 16.5. Just saying. Keep them under the team total. They'll beat up the Rams on Monday Night Football. I don't trust them to win 3 games in January. I trust them to win a game or 2. I trust them. If you beat them, you're going to come out walking with a limp. But thus is life when you're going up against Garoppolo, Bosa, and Mr. Sam.
All right, I want to take a moment here because we do have a bunch of comments coming in from the fans, the audience, our community out there, our people. So I want to surface them quickly. All right, from the top. Matt Rule is Paulie from The Godfather. Oh, Paulie, we won't be hearing from him anymore. Brutal.
Brutal. Or Joe Pesci in Casino, yeah.
Right there. And best quote from the Chiefs are their comebacks. You got to try it. Close them out like this, bada bing.
Whoa,
whoa.
Hey.
Hey, ho, whoa.
Family program. We got
it's
a cartoon mouse
program
on our paychecks.
We've got, as we circle through here, a few comments about Singletary needing to be used more. Brady is Vito Corleone because he's so old. I mean, come on, age is but a number, and Tom Brady has shown that. But hey, look, if anybody's earned the venerable, perhaps soon to be retired,
I don't throw the flags. I throw the tablets.
Got a line. Got to come back for everything. As we said, the Don always has a move to make afterwards.
He said that. That was Tom Brady yesterday.
That was Tom Brady, exactly. And then Eno coming up saying Bellinger is probably the next best weapon on the Giants as well. Hey, look, any team that's going to dial up, what are we calling that? A Tottenham special, a London special, and feature high end names like Bellinger. On a franchise that's used to the names like Beckham Jr. and Barkley. You got to praise the creativity of Brian Daboll there. All right. Moving away now. Our next team, and please fire in more questions. And we've got some more football-related questions that we'll get to there. Some thoughts on Baker Mayfield and such, and we'll touch on that in a bit. But our last muscle team here, let's throw it. We've been to the East Coast with the Giants. We've been to the West Coast with the 49ers. Take a trip down to the Bayou. Take a trip down to New Orleans and the Saints. A unique type of muscle that they've been known for their muscle on defense recently, but Taysom Hill showed you against a Seahawks team this is as about as far removed as the Legion of Boom as you could possibly believe. But this is a Saints team that can throw such a different type of haymaker at you. And when they, their offensive line again has not been at a tier that we expect, and they've suffered some losses and injuries there, over the past 12 months. But nonetheless, they start throwing Taysom Hill at you, and Alvin Kamara looks healthy again. This is a nasty, nasty proposition to try and bring down, tackle, and really contain. Doing this, like a typical muscle, takes a few hits, takes a few blows. Maybe one of their arms is numb. Maybe, one of the knees has been taken out. They down wide receivers. Michael Thomas is out. Chris Olave leaves this game in a really, really dangerous looking hit on the ground, and a really, really sickening kind of play as he held on for a touchdown. They are without their offensive firepower, and yet they come up with a way to get the job done.
That's it, Loss. Get the job done. Doesn't have to be pretty. We'll give them creative license. They got some piano wire they want to turn to. That's on them. I mean, I'm going to make the call and look away and look back, and the job is done. So, Taysom Hill, there's a Cougar in the car, Laws. 1 touchdown pass, 3 touchdown runs, 100 yards. 3 guys have done that ever. Ronnie Brown, hello Wildcat. LaDainian Tomlinson, hello Canton. And Taysom Hill. I don't know if you saw the series, Your Honor. We're talking organized family scene in New Orleans. Bryan Cranston plays the protagonist/antagonist, a role that he splits right down the middle perfectly. But there is some family activity going on in New Orleans, and they are the muscle. But Laurie, we made the observation yesterday. We got 3 muscle teams. They're all in the NFC. We started to mull some potential AFC muscle contenders. We talked about the Browns, maybe talked about the Bengals, but I don't know. These teams seem to fit a little better. The Browns are probably the closest candidate, but such is the nature of the National Football Conference, is it not?
It is. The Browns, when you see what they do, especially in the run game, the QB sneaks on offense, yes, they do bring that physicality. But, man, I don't think you can properly put a Browns. We couldn't get there together. We couldn't get there getting the Browns in there when they're going to be that on defense.
Is so awful. They're 2-3 right now. They have the second toughest remaining schedule until they get Deshaun Watson back. So whilst we can look at some early results and say, hey, Jacoby Brissett's doing enough, once they're through the 11 games suspension, for Deshaun Watson's suspension, for, as the league put it, sexual harassment of massage therapists, they're going to be through 11 games, 5-6, 4-7 maybe? I mean, they go 2 Buffalo, 2 Baltimore, 2 Miami. Yeesh.
Not fun.
Not fun. Only the Steelers have a harder schedule between now and then. So if they can get to that point, maybe we'll call them on to be some muscle. But for me, it's all NFC. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
My apologies.
So the NFC does
no
boast
disrespect.
That muscle. Now we've talked about trust. And these are teams that we've trusted to do a job, whether that was a Don level job or a muscle level job, or a made man conciliary type role. Now this is where trust turns the other way. And this is our rats, Phil. This is teams that show everything that you think is going to make for a family member you can trust. They tick so many boxes. Ray Liotta as Henry Hill in Goodfellas jumps out. Maybe if you want something a little more lighthearted, when Jake Peralta went undercover on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Donnie Brasco.
There you go. Donnie Brasco.
The entire film.
For the whole journey. So, this is our rats that are sleeping there, convincing us, only to let us down, only to turn that trust to ashes at the final point as we have gone past the half-hour mark. So which team jumps out to you? Top of the bill. Who do you really struggle with that trust, despite perhaps a promising record? And feel free to show in the comments there. Feel free to let us know which teams really jumped out to you, which ones you're struggling to really make that commitment to, despite a promising win-loss record, despite some promising performances.
Well, as this team walks the walk and talks the talk, if I told you their resume 4-1, they have the quarterback with the longest active streak of games with a touchdown pass. Top 10 in NFL history, in fact. And they had, in my mind, in my estimation, from my point of view, the number 1 receiver in the National Football League. You would think Super Bowl contender. But we got a job coming up. Would it surprise you at all if we look around? The police snuff us out. They're missing. I give them a call. Where were you? Oh, I was with my cousins. Would it surprise? Would it surprise, Laurie?
No, it wouldn't. The Minnesota Vikings are the picture-perfect candidate for this role. Yes, the 4-1 record. Yes, they absolutely stomped. Wow, did they put a performance on the Green Bay Packers, their hated rivals in week 1? But this is a team we've seen the primetime duds from Kirk Cousins, and everybody that's ever backed him in fantasy, maybe a little wager, maybe a friendly wager in a primetime spot, knows the pain that comes with believing a little too much of Kirk Cousins in that spot. And there always seems to be an excuse. And in this game, the end of this fixture against the Bears, where they tried to give away the W against the Chicago Bears. And, Justin Fields was one, ticky-tacky blocking call away from a highlight level run, a early career defining level show of his potential as a dual threat quarterback and his potential as a game changer on the field. But right at the end of this game, it appears they're giving it up. It appears that they're going to allow the Bears to come and steal this one. And just when it looks like they're being found out, just when perhaps they're at the scene and people looking around going, hey, where are the Vikings? Hey, when we need them most, where are they? There they pop up, Cameron Dantzler with the strip.
What I got.
The strip takes the ball away and secures a victory. Just that little bit, the word that comes, the little bit of plausible deniability.
Alibi.
A little bit of, there it is, the alibi, the plausible deniability.
Alibi.
No, I was here all along. Maybe you turn up at the last second, get a rogue, fire a shot off, act as if you were there all along. You're starting to get some vibes of the Matt Damon dynamic in The Departed. Certainly starts to ring a little. This team, the Minnesota Vikings, they are ones that it screams rat. It screams do not trust. As much as we'd like to see things change, we'd like to see a changing of the guard, just something to mix up what has been the NFC North for so long. The Vikings, they give you that pause of hesitation. They have the plausible deniability, but it's not enough to fully commit.
Laz, if you look at their next 6 games, 5 of them, Dolphins, Cardinals, Cowboys, Bills, Patriots. Some of those teams are great. Some of them not even on our list. But I think we're going to learn a lot about the Minnesota Vikings then. You can't be beating the Lions by 3 and the Bears by 7. And they beat the Saints by 3 or 4. But it's just one of those things. Like you said, they turn up. Oh, sorry, I took a wrong turn. Bang, bang. Got my clip's half empty. I was here the whole time. It's just those type of things. Seems to happen again and again. So this is the lefty Ruggiero asking the question of Donnie Brasco. Donnie being offended. Lefty vouching for Donnie until he saw Donnie on the stand testifying against him. So we see the ingredients. We see the warning signs. We're just getting ahead of it.
All right, Phil. Now, this is another point where...
This one... I trust you. You do not. You smell a rat, and I trust you.
I don't know that I smell a rat. But I think...
Did you put him in muscle? Did you put him in made men? You did not.
I think the test is coming this weekend. And that is a team sitting at the top of the Good Vibes power rankings. And I'm going to be accused of bias. But the Philadelphia Eagles at 5-0. Do I not think they're a good team? I do think they are a good team. I think the roster speaks for itself. I think the game planning with Jalen Hurts speaks for itself. But I do not think that they are a team that's going to take 5-0 and take it to 15-2. And that math still seems weird in my head as we talk about a 17-game record. I think we're going to find out against a Cowboys front. And the Eagles could very well win this game without a lot of offensive production because the Cowboys may not have a lot of offensive production with Cooper Rush under center, with an offensive line that's punching above perhaps expectation when they suffered some injury losses. But this is a nasty, nasty defensive front they're going up against in Philadelphia. But this is the test for me to figure out if we can really trust this Eagles offense when they get thrown something different. And the reason it came up is the Cardinals kept them to 20 points, and the Cardinals were one missed field goal away from taking this to overtime. The Cardinals are not the most talented defense. They're not as talented as Dallas, but they are blitz happy. They will show you all sorts of different looks. They're very creative and wild in what they throw at you. The Cowboys are more talented. The Cowboys have the Marcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons off the edge. They've got young interior defensive linemen. They've got a secondary playing with confidence. what Dan Quinn does quite well, he throws games at you, he throws twists, he is increasingly disguising what he looks at. If the Cowboys have the cattle, they have the scheme and the personnel and the talent to throw some different looks to confuse, is there a spy? Who's playing the spy? What type of coverage am I seeing? Really delaying what Jalen Hurts can process before the snap and after the snap. This will be the test. So it's not that I think the Eagles are necessarily a rat, but I think a real test in how much we can believe in them comes in a hell of a showdown. 9-1 collective record, Sunday Night Football. What's that going to be? 11:15, 11:20 a.m. Australian time next Monday on ESPN. Hell of a game. It's a test. This is the test to see how much we can truly trust this Eagles, particularly in my mind, this Eagles offense that did have it so sweet for the first month of the season. But we saw not very talented, but a creative defense really challenge them outside of adverse conditions that we saw in the wet and wild game against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You don't trust that the Cowboys are made. You don't trust that the Eagles are made. You push.
I got trust issues. Love,
here I thought this was the designated home marketing area of the Philadelphia Eagles.
It is.
Matt Leo, Jordan Mailata, Aaron Sipas. You told me you were from the South. I thought you meant Sicily. I thought you had trust. For me, win or lose, unless they get embarrassed or Jalen Hurts gets hurt, their next four, it's a lot of Houston, Washington. They're going to continue on after this. They don't have to be 15-2. They can be 13-4 and be a contender in the NFC. Who are you trusting more with the current build in the playoffs to make a run more than the Eagles and the Cowboys right now? We said not the Giants, not the Saints, not the Niners. We have our concerns. You want to talk about family concerns? Aaron Rodgers. I'm not even going to go there.
Look.
So for me, we're talking two teams that are going to be 13-4, 12-5, and depending on how the playoff brackets play out, divisional round meeting, maybe a conference championship game. That is my pick as we sit here today.
Look, I think it's just clear when it comes to the NFC side of things, particularly the NFC East, years and years of not being able to trust good performances season to season to season has left me with trust issues, Phil. I can't commit to believing that the Eagles are this good and to believing that the Cowboys are worth being put in the made category. You could flip that in a heartbeat. There's a lot of people who would justifiably say, how can you possibly trust the Cowboys to do anything after the past 30 years?
You don't want to commit, Laz. You just want to stay tight-lipped.
I do just want to stay tight-lipped, which brings us to, this might have been our most fun one. This might have been the one that, and we've had a lot of fun throughout this show. And I'm going to throw this out there to everybody watching. This is our Johnny Tight-Lips. And if you don't know who Johnny Tight-Lips is, classic Simpsons character. Johnny Tight-Lips doesn't like to give away a lot of information. And when we come to that, Phil, how could we go past anyone other than Bill Belichick? And I got to ask you, Phil, I want you to channel Bill Belichick for a second there, our Johnny Tight-Lips of the NFL. Bill, I got a question for you. Mac Jones obviously suffering through injury here. The offensive weapons are questionable at best. Damian Harris is now dealing with an injury, and you've had to turn even more to Ramondre Stevenson, very promising young running back. And then you've got Bailey Zappi with not the strongest arm in the world. Some people would say he throws about as far as most people kick it, but throws with anticipation and accuracy, and he is part of a shutout drubbing, a comfortable victory over the sweethearts, perhaps fading sweethearts, Detroit Lions. What do you say, Bill, when I ask, is there possibly a quarterback controversy brewing in New England? What do you have to say?
I tell him to go suck a lemon.
Perfect. Exactly. And that is why Bill Belichick, perhaps he should lean into it more. Perhaps he should, maybe we need to show Bill Belichick. Maybe, I'm not sure who could get that across the line. Maybe Boomer could show it to him, given the ridiculously amazing scenes we saw with the reverence paid to Boomer when he turned up at Patriots at Patriots training camp in the press room there, and the reverence paid to Boomer. Perhaps he could show him, but maybe we get Bill Belichick spotting a little Johnny Tightlips in action, and we get that channeling through some of the presses, and we can get to a better place between some of these press conference atmospheres in however many years we have with Bill Belichick still at the helm. But Bill Belichick, undoubtedly the Johnny Tightlips, who is not going to give away anything no matter what the scenario. Even a promising one with Bailey Zappi stepping up for those men from New England.
It's too perfect, Laz. I have one more for you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if you sent me this note or somebody else did, but we talked muscle. I don't want to get into too many specifics of a hitman because, again, cartoon mouse on the paycheck, family show, but it's kind of implied with the muscle. You need something done. You need your Sammy the Bull. Who you turn into? How about Ravens kicker, Justin Tucker? Guys called upon in prime time, final seconds, at the siren, at the horn, at the buzzer. Game-winning field goal from beyond 40 yards. Laz, the mathematical center of the field, splits the uprights perfectly. His ball missed that mathematical center by 13 centimeters.
I mean, this is the sweetest striker of a football the NFL has seen from the kicking position. He is on par with any place kicker in any oval sport around the globe. Justin Tucker is in a world of his own, a tier of his own. He is the sharpshooter. He is a hitman. And that stat that, if the field goals were half a yard wide, he would still, that's so half a yard. So what are we talking about there? Like 45 centimeters?
Yeah.
If they were 45 centimeters wide, that strike still would have split them.
This one from 43 yards away?
It's unbelievable. As rare as it comes. And I think it's a beautiful way to end.
Quickly, one more stat for you because I love my numbers. He has made 75 consecutive kicks in the second half or overtime. 75. He's made 61 in the fourth quarter or overtime. 61 for his last 61.
Talk about coolness under pressure and grace under pressure.
That is, you slip an envelope under the door of some non-occupied apartment. 3 days later, your problem's gone. Don't ask questions.
Tucker, the ultimate special teams hitman, our NFL hitman. All right. That's a beautiful way to wrap up our Phil's Mafia.
It's good because that delivery is exhausting. So
we are at the 47-minute mark. We have touched on a few fan questions, but I want to just do a bit of a circle back. Adam Schultz saying that give Dan Quinn the head coaching job now. I mean, this performance, it was stunning that he didn't get the Broncos job. Who knows what mechanics behind the scenes led to that. But he's going to be as hot a name as there will be this offseason. So that makes plenty of sense there. And as I roll back, Adam particularly wants Phil's thoughts on Baker Mayfield. So let's just, look, I'll hand it over to you, Phil. There's an injury to talk about here, and there's just a level of play. Surely we've seen the last of Baker Mayfield being trusted as a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, we both contribute to the ticker. I did the Tough Vibes power rankings this week, and I believe I have the Panthers at number one. The protocol of hiring now former head coach Matt Rule has come under fire from the owner. Back-to-back swings and misses at quarterback. And now you got a team with 4 draft picks in the upcoming draft. No real plan at quarterback. Interim head coach.
And then odd comments from the owner about bringing music back to Charlotte and how much, the new regime there has invigorated the Charlotte scene. It's not the time or place for that. You're a steward and a team owner of a franchise that has had some beautiful moments in a not long history. This is not one of the old dynasty franchises, the NFL. And, Panthers fans out there have every right to feel pretty let down. Yeah. Yes, my previous regime, but this one as well.
Distant last place. Again, QBR has its, blind spots, but distant last in QBR in the NFL. The Panthers need a clean slate, and they need to look at the top of this draft, whether it's a Bryce Young or Will Levis or one of these other premier QBs that come out as they're going to be picking in the top 5. And that's going to be your future. And that's the first building block and laws, whether that means before the deadline, trading away some other pieces to accrue some more draft picks in the day 2 region to try and just get some depth. Matt Rule went all in on defense. He had an entire draft of defense. Was it 7 or 8 picks, all defensive? And then finishes his tenure 1-27 when allowing more than 17 points. So yeah, if you can stop a team, great. But if you can't, there's no plan B.
Yep.
So Baker was going to be asked to lift too much. But I think the peak of the crescendo of his career was that last healthy season in Cleveland. So his penultimate season when they had the playoff win over Pittsburgh and got over their playoff hoodoo. But I think we have he'll kick it around the league for a while. But I think the league will move past him.
All right, let's go rapid fire to close this one out as we hit the 50-minute mark. Let's rip through some of these. We've got some more fan questions that came in, more of our audience throwing some zingers our way. All right, we touched on, Brad asked if the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I think we've touched quite well on that. Where would they rank if they were on the AFC side of things? I mean, clearly behind the Chiefs and the Bills for me. But then you start getting that conversation at the 3 spot.
I say 3. On a good day, I think the Ravens are better than their record suggests. I don't think the Ravens are going to continue to blow 17-point leads at home. They had won 61 in a row, and then they lost 2 17-point leads in 3 weeks to playoff caliber teams, but you blew a 17-point lead twice nonetheless. So on a good day, I'd say the Ravens are ahead of them. But
yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. Brad also wants to know if you could make one realistic midseason trade, who would you want to see arrive on your team? Forget our teams for a sec, because we've spent too much time on the Cowboys and Broncos this season.
Don't trade for people. You need, I guess, maybe trade because they need picks. Jeez.
So the name that jumps out to me is DJ Moore. I think with the way his contract, it's only a recent contract extension, but the way the guarantees play out, it's not an untradeable asset by any stretch of the imagination. The Carolina Panthers need picks. I know that's not a fact lost on our friend Brad. And ultimately, I think there are some teams at the top or that had visions of the top, the Green Bay Packers, that would desperately need that extra explosiveness, that extra speed, that extra playmaking ability in the wide receiver core, just to breathe some room, not even life, but room into that offense and make that offense feel less strained, stressed, and tense and close.
Giants for DJ Moore?
Yeah, but then you question about
David Sills is their wide receiver 3.
Yeah, but is Daniel Jones going to be able to unlock DJ Moore? Is DJ Moore going to be able to unlock Daniel Jones? Like, is that the investment yet, or is the investment in your next quarterback in future years? And the one that I'd say is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Give that wide receiver room some juice. You've got your quarterback in place. The offensive line is on a positive trajectory. But yeah, can we do more than Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones and Travis Etienne out of the backfield as your big speed guy, despite the fact that he lines up next to Trevor Lawrence? Can we do more there? So yeah, that would be a spot that I'd love to see. He leaves the conference. He stays in the South. But yeah, I'd love to see DJ Moore get a look in there. What about you, Phil? Who would you send? What dream trade would you like to see?
I was pretty quick with this one, only because I've known this kid since he was in high school. Roquan Smith, I know, not happy in Chicago, coming up at the end of his rookie deal, I believe, not able to get a long-term extension. Chicago is not in a position to contend. They have a very weak schedule, but they have yet to capitalize on it. They were lucky to beat the 49ers in a monsoon. They could beat the Commanders on the Week 6 opener. We lead into that on NFL Blitz in a couple days' time, 2 days' time. So we'll be talking about that and kind of the weird motives for both teams, as neither seems to be a contender. But I would say Roquan Smith, the Bears, knowing that they can't really lock him up, they need assets, they need a rebuild. I think trade him to a team like the Chargers, who are clearly a step behind in the division and clearly a step behind that top tier in the AFC. You have a guy who seems to have the makeup of an A-list quarterback and makes throws that nobody else can make, but you're allowing a league worst in terms of rush yards per carry, and you're just not built to win in January. So I would say Roquan Smith to a team like the Chargers makes a ton of sense.
All right, one more before we get out of here, because we are running out of time here. Does the NFL now have a serious problem with roughing the passer penalties? Have they now overreacted to Tua's concussions? I think those are two things. And I'll let you get your 2 cents in. I'll make it quick. I don't think it's about overreacting to Tua's concussions. I think this was something we were seeing trend before then. I don't believe you overreact to what's happened with Tua and other players. I think these are appropriate steps. Do they have a serious problem with roughing the pass penalties? Yes. We know it is an emphasis point from the league, from the competition committee. I thought Chris Jones spoke beautifully in the locker room about it, saying that if we're seeing, he used the word, I loved it, he used the word of velocity. If we're seeing an increased velocity of these calls arriving as they look to protect the quarterback, fine. But if it's a point of emphasis, then allow it to be a point of emphasis to be reviewed in some capacity. No, okay, you don't want to make it challengeable. I'd personally be fine with it. The league doesn't want to make it challengeable. Fine. But we saw in that game, and you and me talked about it, 2 instances immediately after that. The Clyde Edwards-Helaire touchdown called that was immediately before they could even get what the special teams units out there, I believe you said, it was turned into, no, he was down at the half-yard line, let's set it up. Not a big delay in game, no big deal, no muss, no fuss. And then following that, we had a ball carrier awarded, same game, awarded a first down, little run out towards the flat there, little run on. Given that first down, before the chains could even be moved, the cameras above, the replays above noted that his helmet was touched while he was down before getting up and gaining the first down, moved back a few yards, became an 8-yard gain. Again, no delay in the game whatsoever. If that process can work for those plays, then that process can work for such a pivotal moment as what we saw with Chris Jones, for such a pivotal moment as what we saw with Tom Brady being, you want to talk about, hey, we're finishing up our mobster movie. We're talking about a call that fell off the back of the truck and landed in someone's lap. Was that one or not? So, yeah, for me, yes, there is a problem. It is not an insurmountable problem, though. I just think we need to see more flexibility in terms of using the clear and obvious pathways and technology to get this thing right.
Laz, those are the 3 words, clear and obvious. And I want to use European football as an example with a caveat, because the application of VAR in Europe has been really inconsistent, and the pendulum swings violently from one way to the other, and it's kind of inconsistently applied. But you touched on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire play. I mentioned it as well. The NFL is looking at this like they looked at the challengeable pass interference calls, which was a disaster. They don't want a repeat of that. Like you and I said, it doesn't need to be challengeable, but you can have somebody at 345 Park Avenue in New York, sitting down at a computer like they do every game. So when Clyde Edwards-Helaire catches the pass, his bum falls on the one, he kind of tucks into the end zone. Referee says touchdown. Guy gets on and says, hey, Clint, yeah, he was down at half a yard short. So tweet. Upon further review, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was down half yard short of the goal line. 3rd down, Kansas City. Get a couple boos at Arrowhead from the partisan support, but it's not a discussion post-game because we can see upon replay, oh, it was a clear and obvious call. It was objective, yes. So we're moving from objectivity to subjectivity. But a lot of these calls are subjective, and these referees are reviewed anyway. So if they botch a holding call or a pass interference or roughing the passer call or one of these types of things, they will still be scrutinized after the fact. What this avoids, applying that Hawkeye system to this, is if it is a clear and obvious error, and somebody like you or I, any learned football fan can watch it in an instant and say, that is not roughing the passer on Chris Jones. If anything, he braced the fall for Derek Carr and took the ball away before he went down. That's not roughing the passer on Grady Jarrett. Tom Brady himself called it an undesirable hug, I think was the terminology he used. So in that moment, somebody in Park Ave runs it back once. I don't know about that call. Slow motion. Hey, Jerome Boger on the sideline in Tampa. Yeah, that's not, pick up the flag. Tweet. Upon further review, roughing the passer's waved off. 4th down, Tampa. They're gonna have to kick it away in that instance. Or in this case, not Clint. Yeah, that's not personal foul. Okay, 1st down, Kansas City, and then that's it. Because any clear and obvious supporter, it would be so easy to institute. But that's where I think the 2-part question of Tua is apt, because we saw how quickly they were able to pivot on concussion protocol and say, okay, now we have extra spotters. And if Teddy Bridgewater stumbles, even if we evaluate him for a concussion, he's not going back in the game. He has to clear concussion protocol, even though he wasn't concussed. They were able to make that change in 1 week. So why can't a league memo be sent? I know they have a referees union, so it does get a little thorny in there, but to say like, hey guys, we are trying to make you less the topic of post-game conversation, because it's as much the league as it is Jerome Boger and these and the referee in Kansas City. I can't remember his last name, but to get them off the microscope and to take away the controversy when it is clear and obvious.
All right. We have 8 seconds till we hit the hour mark. So no uncomfortable hugs here, Phil. Just
tag
love,
team champ is
love.
Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce.
There we go. The tag team
Won
champion.
propaganda this week.
The tag team champs, obviously. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes coming in and stealing the title away at the top of they knocked Gabriel Davis and Josh Allen off the ladder with the belts hanging there. They knocked them off at the last second to scale. Let's get out of here. No uncomfortable hugs here. All love on our special family edition, our special Wednesday special of the Brekkie NFL show. Phil, I'll land the plane today. I'll get us out of here. We've got look, go have a look at the slate for week 6. It's an absolute belter. Sleeper game for me. Love it. It's going to be on ESPN. If you're up at 4 a.m., I think Jets and Packers could be real spicy. And look, Commanders and Bears, the pictures being used for promos for this game yesterday made all the memes across the internet. You know what? Any chance to see Justin Fields perhaps increasingly unlocked against a suspect defense, I am here to see. Not to mention, hey, look, Carson Wentz, the interception at the end of that game, it was a rough ending. It was very Carson Wentz staring down a receiver, but we still got plenty of talent, particularly at the wide receiver spot from Washington. Don't bury that game just yet. Tune in. It's a nice way to get your Friday in a nice rhythm as you hit the weekend. But Phil, let's get out of here. Let's call it from my family to your family to the NFL family. That's been the Brekkie NFL show for week 6. I'm Laurie Horesh. Beautiful man over there is Phil Murphy, and we will see you next time.